take a break of being depressed by the Sixers and our terrible coaching. We get to talk about some good coaching right now, and that'll really cleanse the palate a bit leading into tonight's game.
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.
What up? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 48 of the 476ers podcast. We're not going to talk Sixers today. We're actually going to take a spin around the NBA. I'm sorry to give you that view. Okay, there it is. We're going to take a spin around the NBA today just to see, just to talk about some of the other series that are going on. Take a break of being depressed by the Sixers and our terrible coaching. We get to talk about some good coaching right now, and that'll really cleanse the palate a bit leading into tonight's game. This episode should be out later today. I'm hoping. This computer is super slow over here, so sometimes it could take a little bit longer to get it put out. But hopefully, hopefully it is. My beard is looking excellent. I shaped myself up this morning, and I am feeling good. So let's talk about this. Let's start from, where do we want to stop at? We're going to start from the East. Excuse me. Coming over, I wasn't sick, I don't think. I think just allergies were killing me. But anyway, it's not the point. Start from the East. Milwaukee, Orlando. A lot of these series are actually going kind of the way I expected. If you listen to the podcast where I talked about the playoffs, and you probably heard me, you heard me give my predictions, what I kind of thought was going to happen. And I would say that a lot of these series are going kind of the way that I thought in some respect. And I'll talk about the ones that are kind of surprising me a little bit. So Milwaukee, Orlando, not really a surprise. Milwaukee they didn't blow them out, but they really did kind of end-to-end dominate. There was a couple points where Orlando tried to make a run. Listen, I said on the last podcast about Vucevic, how Vucevic can't be your best player. If he's your best player, you're only going to go so far. Vucevic really is, to me, the big man version of like Chris Middleton almost, or Tobias Harris. He's that level of star. And while he's playing really, really well, don't get me wrong, I don't want to shit on him because he's playing really well. The reason he's playing well is because Milwaukee has essentially decided to say you can shoot every open shot you want. It's not like Joe, for example, where Joe is getting the ball on the block and having to go through the defense and do all types of shit. Vucevic is shooting an obscene amount of open jump shots just all over the court, and he's drilling all of them to his credit. To his credit, he's drilling all these jump shots. Good for him. But Milwaukee has essentially said Evan Fournier, Markelle, Terrence Ross, who can go off, mind you, but, whatever. One of you guys is going to have to beat us today. You know what I mean? Vooch, you can get your 30 and 20 or 30 and 10 or 25 and 15, whatever. But 25 points does not equal 110 points that we're going to hang on you. So go figure this out then. You know what I mean? It's really, listen, Orlando, it seems like Orlando goes through this every single decade. They did this with Shaq. They had this with Dwight, and now they're doing this with Vooch, where it's like all the team has to do is say, okay, we're going to double down here on you, and one of these other guys is good. We're going to stay home on everyone else. You're going to get your opportunity to score, but we stay home on everyone else. No one else gets any open shots. So that's kind of what's happening here. I don't expect there to be much drama in this series. It is a little bit closer. The last game was a little bit closer. Again, they took off big, but Orlando really did fight back. And they had it within single digits towards the end of the game at one point. I think they were down 9 points at one point before before Milwaukee ended up just kind of reasserting themselves. But it's worrisome. It's worrisome that Giannis is getting off. Don't get me wrong. Giannis is having big numbers, but it's not as easy as it was last year. I'll be honest with you. Watching him in the playoffs right now, it just isn't as easy. It's so easy to get that wall up. Now, he's shooting threes better, no question about it. That's the scary part of him. If he's shooting threes, it's going to be pretty much impossible to do anything to him. But we still haven't seen the Giannis playoff version where he has a go-to thing. You know what I mean? He doesn't have a go-to thing yet. You know what I mean? It's as hard as it is. It's easy to sniff out what he wants to do. It's just hard to stop that, right? Where you'll have like great players who are, I mean, and not to make this about the Sixers, but you see, you don't really know what Joel wants to do. Joel can do whatever he wants to do, pretty much. He's just going to kind of make it up, and it's really hard to stop that. Or if you go to, like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, or MJ or whatever, they all had go-to things, but they had moves and counter moves and everything. You're just not going to stop them. You can't really take them out of the game. Even LeBron at this point in his career is that, you know what I mean? But Giannis isn't there yet. He has some stuff to do. It's a little bit scary seeing how close it was in game 2. I really expected them to run off with game 2 early. I mean, I expected them to win by 30. And I was kind of surprised that they didn't, considering, on the other side, their counterpart on the other side did that to a better team. You know what I mean? Which we'll get to in a moment. But, yeah, and Chris Middleton sucking in the playoffs is worrisome. You know what I mean? It seems like unless Chris Middleton is playing the Celtics, he's going to suck in the playoffs. You know what I mean? And then he's like a notorious Celtics killer in the playoffs. So I don't know. Pacers, Miami, this series is kind of surprising me so far. I did think – I said Miami would win. I said Miami would win in 7. I didn't – they're really – they had some regular season issues closing games, giving up leads and closing games. And right now, it's the opposite. Through these first 2 games, it's almost like they turned the switch on. You know what I mean? And that's surprising because it's such a young team. Yeah, they do have Jimmy is not young and Iguodala is not young, but Iggy is not playing a huge role, even though he was on the floor at the end of game 2 yesterday. He definitely was in that closing unit. It was Jimmy, Iggy, Tyler Hero, Duncan, and Bam. I mean, that's a vicious lineup. If Iggy can really dial back the clock and be super, be Iggy for the last 6 minutes of a game, be the Iggy that we saw in Golden State, they're going to be a problem. You know what I mean? They're going to be a problem. Now, I did literally say I thought that they had a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's be clear. It's not that I'm that surprised. I'm just that surprised they won 2 games in a row in a way that felt like it was almost wire to wire. Like if it wasn't necessarily wire to wire. They battled in game 2, but it just, man, they jumped out to a lead. That never felt like Indiana could get it back. You know what I mean? Just didn't feel like Indiana could get it back. They're gonna need Victor to Oladipo to really reclaim what he's missing. He's still not 100% yet. You can see it. He's not moving 100%. And if they have any hope of going any further, Oladipo is going to have to start putting up 25, 30 a game. And same thing with Brogdon. TJ Warren, again, I mean, TJ Warren going off was very confusing to me. He's good. I'm not saying he's not good. He is a bucket. That's why his name is TJ Buck, Tony Buckets, right? That's where he got that nickname, because he's a bucket. But to have scored 50 on us, it makes sense when you consider how trash we are. But, relying on him in the playoffs is a different thing. He is not that level of player, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Now, I haven't even really been paying attention too closely to his numbers in the playoffs. I just know that they haven't been what we expect him to be. Now, he also has a problem scoring on Jimmy Butler. No surprise, a lot of players do have a problem scoring on Jimmy, but it just seems like Jimmy might have the mental edge on him a tiny bit when you see them out on the court. It's always funny. Like, I've had situations on basketball courts with people where I threaten their life maybe or something like that. It's no big deal. And you can always tell who's the comfortable one, who's not the comfortable one. I'm always comfortable. You know what I mean? I don't care that I threatened your life just now. But you can see that there's some trepidation in them after that. You know what I mean? And that's almost what it looks like watching Jimmy and TJ Warren on the court together. Like, TJ just seems not super confident, and Jimmy is like screaming. And yet Jimmy looks over the top confident. You know what I mean? So we're going to skip that series because we don't give a shit. Listen, we're going to – man, I don't want to talk about the Sixers this podcast, so I want to be happy today. Toronto, Brooklyn, what do we got here? Toronto, Brooklyn. So, yeah, Brooklyn's not – yeah, they're going to get swept. I'm sorry. They played again today. I did mention this on the last episode, though, that Caris has really shown us some things. Caris has shown these things multiple times over the years when either D'Angelo got injured or Kyrie got injured, where he is able to run the offense himself. I mean, Dame said it in the last game of the season against them. Caris is cold. You know what I mean? Caris is a good player. He's not a shooting guard. He's a point guard. You know what I mean? But the problem with Caris is he's that type of creator that you have to, when you watch him play, you have to wonder how much he's going to take off the court in order to create. There are players like that where if a guy has to be a creator, but is just not that efficient offensively, it's going to limit you. You know what I mean? That's the curse of point guards. You know what I mean? Where you can be a good point guard and you can create, but if you require the ball in your hands and you're not the most efficient point guard, then you're really limiting what you can do. You know, that's what separates a guy like Chris Paul from maybe not a guy like Russ. Russ has had success. I don't want to take Russ credit away from Russ, but or you know what? Let's take Chris Paul out of it. Let's go Russ and James Harden, for example, where Russ isn't the most efficient offensive player, and an assist is not the representation of unselfishness. You know what I mean? We have to evolve how we talk about assists, and I think we have been evolving over the years, especially since Russ won his MVP a few years ago, because you realize that when a player is getting an assist because he's holding the ball to be the pass that leads to the bucket, that isn't unselfish. Hockey assists are far more unselfish than basketball assists. You know, by hockey assists, I mean the pass that leads to the bucket. That is actually unselfish. You know what I mean? But an actual assist is not really that unselfish. You know what I mean? And when a guy like Russ is constantly holding the ball, it's really hard to tell what players are good or not. That's why the Victor Oladipo thing didn't work out. That's what capped the Russell PG thing. You know what I mean? So now he comes into a team on the Rockets where he's essentially doing spot duty, running the offense, doing what he's doing, which does work to an extent, don't get me wrong, but he's also giving up a lot of responsibility to James Harden. They're essentially splitting responsibilities, and James Harden, again, is an extremely efficient offense all onto himself, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, which have surprised the shit out of me the way that they've been playing. We'll get to that, but so Caris is going to have to dispel some of that. You know, Caris is a great creator for sure, but if you take the other players on that Brooklyn team and replace them with better players, replace Joe Harris with Klay Thompson, replace I don't know, whatever, replace him with better players. If you're putting the ball in Caris's hand, is that going to equate to more wins, or is there going to be a ceiling on what he can provide being a creator? Because that's what happens with creators in the NBA. It's just a thing to keep in mind. But I do like Caris. You know what I mean? I do like him. I think he's a good player. He can do a lot. I blew my load the other day talking about him finishing layups. It's the funniest thing. Watch him finish layups. It's hilarious. He slows down. He's the slowest. He is the opposite of the speed of light. He is the speed of darkness. You know what I mean? Which actually darkness is fast as shit. But darkness is not fast. It's not a thing. It's the absence of speed of light is whatever. We're getting too technical here. So yeah, but I think they're gonna get swept. I said that in the beginning. Toronto is champion. You're talking about championship tested. And they just, man, like they are, and now the Masai thing is going to piss them off more. They're going to come out for Brooklyn. Oh, man. They're going to come out for blood, I think, today. I wouldn't be surprised. This will be out well into their game being played, and they're going to be coming for blood, I would expect. What is this? Hold on. I'm sorry. Something's covering the screen. I don't want this. No. Close whatever this is. So let's move on here. So now we have, I'm sorry for that little delay. Dallas Clippers. Oh, son of a bitch. I am not doing a good job here. I apologize. This is what happens when you make everything into a link. And when you want to click off of something to you know, it's just a whole thing. Anyway, Clippers, Dallas. Dogfight. There is a legitimate argument that the Clippers should be down 0-2 right now. Because that game one was close, and for whatever stupid reason, they kick out KP. That was just a bad decision. I understand he had one technical, and this was the second technical, and that means he's ejected. I get it. Don't give him that second technical though. He didn't do anything crazy except step in for his teammate. You know what I mean? And this is the playoffs. You got to relax. There's no fans in the stands, so we don't have to worry about the malice in the palace. Give him a little bit of a leash. Don't fuck up something like that. Don't do that. Don't do that. You have one of the most marketable stars in the league in Luka. Understand. Kawhi is not the most marketable guy. He's just quiet and awkward. You know what I mean? So you have one of the most marketable dudes in the NBA. Don't hamstring them by kicking out their best player in their biggest games now, or their second best player, I'm sorry, in their biggest games. That just doesn't make sense. So there's a real argument that the Clippers should be down 0-2 right now. Dallas trashed them the other night. We'll see tonight what's going to happen. Listen, it's not over. Don't get it fucked up. You know what I mean? It's not over by any means. But I did mention Dallas's offense is one of the most efficient offenses in NBA fucking history, if not the most efficient. I can't remember. I looked up I'd heard this stat the other day, and I just can't remember if they said they are the most efficient or one of the most efficient. I think they said the most efficient, which is hard to believe. That's why I don't want to just stand on that. But they score a lot of points. It is very difficult. Their lineup, when it's Seth Curry, Tim Hardaway Jr., Luka, Zinger, and whoever, Dorian Finney-Smith at the 4 or Maxi Kleber at the 4, is so incredibly efficient. All 5 of those guys shoot. A couple of those guys can defend. And then and Luka's just he is an atomic bomb. And that dude is Hiroshima on feet. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. Rest in peace to the victims of Hiroshima. I don't mean to be insensitive. He is ridiculous. You know what I mean? So Clippers have their hands full. I said that this would go 7. I still stand by that. Don't expect the Clippers to roll over. Kawhi is a fucking champion, a 2-time champion, and he's faced down the best player on the other side many, many, many times. When he played for the Spurs, one of the worst moments, but one of the most incredible moments was him playing against him on that Spurs team that won 60. They won 60. They always win 60-some games. It's not really a surprise. And they played the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals with KD, and he stared down KD. He stared down Steph. He stared down Klay. He was the best basketball player on that court before he got injured by what's this dude's name who put his foot under him when he was landing and hurt his ankle. Zaza Pachulia, who then hurt his ankle. In that game 1, the Spurs were going to win that game, and it was going to be because Kawhi was staring down these 3 guys at the other end and was not fucking shook, was not fucking impressed. He should have been the MVP that year. That was the year that James Harden won the MVP. In my opinion, he was the MVP. He had similar numbers, a tick off offensively, but was the best defender in the NBA, causing havoc on defense. My man, what I say about Matisse, he is the original static. He is static on an NBA court. You know static, when you put static on a TV set and you can't see anything, you can kind of see a picture, but then it just be all wavy and staticky. That's what Kawhi Leonard is on a basketball court. The offenses can't operate the same way they operate when he's there. He was the MVP that year. Anyway, he is going to face down Luka, I promise you, and he is going to come for blood. This series is not over, just because people get so tied up into the most recent games that they're like, people will sway easily. If the Clippers win tonight, the Clippers are going to win in 5. Then Dallas wins the next game, the Dallas is going to win in 6. And it's just, people just switch up. Listen, keep the same energy. The Clippers are going to be fine. They have arguably the best player in the NBA. That motherfucker is a menace. He's a maniac. He's going to come for blood tonight against Dallas. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see here. The next game, Denver, Utah. I'm like mad paranoid. If you see me constantly looking, it's because I'm making sure that the mic is still working. The one day I recorded like 3-hour video alone, and 2 hours got cut out because of mic issues, and it really pissed me off. Anyway, Denver, Utah. This series is somewhat surprising me a little bit. I did say Denver. I think I said Denver will win in 6 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. And it's still on track. It can still happen. That game is gonna. That game 3 is today. But I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't surprised by what I'm seeing in Utah right now. I'm seeing a lot of heart. I'm seeing a lot of fight for a team that again, the Rudy, Donovan thing. I think this is credit to Donovan Mitchell, man. Donovan Mitchell, to me, seems like an excellent teammate. He just what I see on the court is the type of teammate you want to play with. He takes a lot of shots. He likes to have the ball in his hands for sure. But that guy just shows love to his teammates, man. You want that guy. You want that guy on your side, man. You want that guy, especially if he's going to give you 50 in a playoff game. You want him on your side. Rudy, no, I don't want Rudy on my side because he's a one-trick fucking pony. He's playing well, though. But he's a one-trick pony. I don't want Rudy on my side. And he'll also give the coronavirus to all the teams, and then the NBA has to shut down for 8 months. So fuck you, Rudy. I'm sorry, not fuck you. I don't know him personally, but just whatever. So I am a little bit surprised right now. Now, Denver, their bench is suffering a little bit. I'm confused why we haven't seen Bol yet in the playoffs. I'm a little bit confused. He was playing really, really well. I would think you want him as a spark off the bench. Why not? Why not give him a try? He's also a menace defensively. He causes havoc around the rim. I would think you want to see him a few, 10, 12 minutes a game. I don't know. I would keep an eye on that. I understand that they like using Mason Plumlee. Who Mason Plumlee is I'm not going to say he's Joker light, but in a similar vein, likes to initiate the offense himself, will dribble up. He does it pretty often. He has been doing it for a couple years. But the thing is, he doesn't offer anything offensively, really. You know what I mean? He can grab offensive rebounds. He's strong. He can defend, but doesn't offer anything in the perimeter. So I don't know. He doesn't spread the floor at all. I don't know. I don't know. He's a pro, though. I don't know. I would give Bol some consideration, some more minutes. They need some pop off the bench. They were really having trouble scoring last game. I would think, why not, man? Give this dude a shot and see. They're missing Gary Harris, who's just another perimeter defender that they could throw, arguably the best perimeter defender that they could throw at Donovan Mitchell. It's kind of causing issues. So we're going to see what's going to happen in that game. I'm, again, a little bit surprised what I'm seeing in that game. I said Denver would win, but game 2 definitely concerned me. Game 1, I thought was a good sign for Denver. I mean, they essentially took the brunt of this 50-point game, and they just bounced right back. Jamal Murray showed some things, showed that he will not be scared. He will not be swayed. But then game 2, man, Utah came out. You lose a tough game like they lost in game 1. It's a younger team, and they come out in game 2 the way they did. I would be concerned a little bit if I was Denver. Again, you don't want to get too high, too low based on who just won. But based on this situation, I'm a little bit surprised at the way Utah bounced back and the way Denver came out. Denver has been here. They just faced the Game 7 last year. You would think they'd be a little bit more tested. I'm a little bit surprised the way they came out in Game 2 and got blown off the court that way. So we'll see how that's going to go. The Rockets, now OKC and Rockets, now this is a game that's surprising me. This right here is surprising me a great, great deal. I picked OKC to win, all right? And I'm not going to back down from that because I'm not a coward, okay? And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong, and I'm going to fucking smile on my way to death, all right? I am so surprised at the way the Rockets are playing. The Rockets were playing, and I had mentioned this on a couple episodes ago about the Rockets. One of the biggest mistakes that teams make against the Rockets is because they think that they have an obvious mismatch in the post. There's not enough great post players for there to be a mismatch in the post. You know what I mean? Steven Adams is not like a good post player. You know what I mean? He can score in the post, and he'll have moments where he does some shit that I'm like surprised by. Every move, anytime he does like an up and under or a move, it's the same. He gets the same reaction from me that he got when he did the one-handed full court heave that went in earlier this year, because he just doesn't have that post skill. I think it's a confidence thing, because I've seen him do some moves that are really nice and fluid, and he just doesn't do it. I just don't think he's confident in his post game and his post game, and it just doesn't offer enough. Houston has these guys that are just like hard-nosed, mad aggressive rebounders. Like a lot of them take on the personality of Russ. Cove, PJ Tucker, Eric Gordon, Danuel House, Ben McLemore to a certain extent, Jeff Green, Austin Rivers, they just all bought into like this gang rebounding mentality. So just because Steven Adams has the advantage, there's like 4 people going for the same rebound at the same time on the Rockets. They fight for rebounds. They fight defensively right now. I mean, what they did to the Thunder yesterday is very concerning. Chris Paul, listen, Chris, I love you, bro. You're arguably my favorite point guard of all time is Chris Paul. Understand that. Please understand that. And he is will retire as one of the probably 4 or 5 best point guards of all time. Maybe a top 30 player of all time, something like that. I don't have to think about that. One of my favorite point guards, an all-time playoff performer. Fuck what you heard about him choking or anything like that. His playoff numbers are very similar to his regular season numbers. And I've seen him when he was on the Hornets go up against the Lakers, who were heavily favored, and absolutely destroy them single-handedly. I saw him put up a game winner against the mighty Spurs. He fought a lot of tough teams. Blake Griffin was always overrated to a certain extent. and whatever. This is not about blowing Chris Paul, but right, the point being is that Houston has shut down the Chris Paul show at this point, has effectively shut him down, and it's scary. Game 1, I saw a look in Chris Paul I did not like. He had a face on of someone that was going into an awkward, like, you know, you have friends who dated by accident, even not dated by, maybe they smashed by accident, they had like a one night stand, or they went on a date, whatever, and now you got to show up at this place. They're both going to be there. It didn't work out, whatever. Maybe it ended up awkward. It ended awkward. Didn't end in a happy fashion, and now you're going to go to a party and they're both going to be there. And now one of them is comfortable with what happened. He or she is fine, and the other person is not comfortable with what happened, and he or she is now awkward. Well, that was the Chris Paul face. That was Chris Paul's face in Game 1, and it really left me scared. He finished with good numbers, but it did not start off well. I think in the first quarter he was like 1 for 7. It wasn't great. And last night was no different, man. He was struggling out there. He was struggling. It's scary. Their offense has grinded down to a halt. If you watch them on offense right now, it is ugly. It's worse than the Sixers offense almost. You know what I mean? It is not pretty. Not a lot of movement on offense. It's a lot of isolation plays. Houston is attacking closeouts. They are closing out on shooters as aggressive as any defensive team you've ever seen. You know what I mean? And because they have a lot of speed, because they don't have a big man. So there's a lot of speed on closeouts right now. James Harden didn't have a particularly good game. They're not even playing with Russ. It's scary right now for OKC. I said that they were going to win. I'm going to stand by that, even though they're down 2-0. I don't know how they're going to come back, but I'm going to stand by it just because I'm a man of my word. But, yeah, OKC is dark. It's dark and hell is hot, my man. Cue up the DMX album. Where my dogs at? What? Where my dogs at? All right, Portland, LA. This has been interesting. What an interesting series so far. Portland won Game 1. LA was just flat, came out flat. LA has to win on defense. Understand that they don't have the offensive prowess to really make to go blow for blow with Portland. Is not going to happen that way. You know what I mean? It's not going to happen that way. AD is not shooting at a level high enough that warrants it. And again, AD is a fucking center. I hate the lineup of AD and JaVale McGee. I hate it so much. I hate it. Stop this fucking lineup. What are we playing? Are you playing the Knicks? You're not playing the 90s Knicks. You're not playing our trash team with Trash Al. What are you doing this for, AD? Be the center that you've always been meant to be. And let LeBron be the 4 that he wants to be. He wants to play the 4. He don't want to guard point guards. It's a little bit tough without Avery Bradley. He was their best perimeter defender. And was one of their better shooters. They're going to struggle because Danny Green was washed last year on the low. He played okay at times for the Raptors, but if you watched him on a game-to-game basis last year, he was washed. He was washed, unfortunately. He was washed. He still spreads the floor, but he was washed. And he is super-duper washed right now, making a lot of money. KCP, you're going to have to do something, bro. Like, you made a lot of money on the Lakers last year, 2 years ago. And they brought you back, and you're not really offering a whole lot offensively right now. So they're going to need him. They're going to need Kuz to score. They need to really just they need to adopt the lineup, and they need to stop this bullshit. You know what I mean? They need to go with like a Kuz, Caruso, a Caruso, KCP, LeBron, Kuzma, AD lineup that can spread the floor, be dynamic, and Kuzma's been playing. Listen, a lot of people are surprised by Kuzma's defense. I remember in his first Summer League game, which was also Ben Simmons' first. I don't know if they're both their first Summer League games against each other, but that Summer League when Ben came and Kuzma was in that Summer League too. It was the first time I saw Kuzma. The defense he was playing, now this is Summer League again, you know what I mean? So he's not playing NBA players all the time. But I did not see the guy who was the lazy defender that he became over the last couple of years. I saw somebody who was mad aggressive on defense, mad active hands, active feet, could shut people down. I saw that in the Summer League. So I was surprised to watch him kind of fade away defensively. So now that he's back and people are like, oh, he's a good defender. Surprise, surprise. It's not that surprise because I saw this guy in that Summer League. It was weird to me that he had become such a bad defender. And now he's playing good defense again. So AD obviously is a defensive player of the year candidate. LeBron can turn it on and off. KCP is a very good defender. I'm sorry, not Caruso. But Caruso's a very good defender too. But Danny Green, whatever. You have a dynamic five right there who can all defend, who can all shoot. It just makes sense to me that you would want to go with that lineup. That's a way more effective lineup. Now, against Portland, I understand why you might be going bigger because you have the Zach Collins and Nurkic thing. I understand that, but maybe you want to try to run them off the court a little bit. I don't know. Either way, they won last night, so this is all here. It's all bullshit. They blew out Portland last night, and that's what's interesting. Portland seemed to be in a really good position in game one, but I did say, that, listen, the Lakers are going to win with defense, and if you would have heard this podcast, if I made this podcast yesterday, the words I would have said was, look out for the Lakers to win tonight. People are, to have counted out the Lakers, people talking about the Lakers are going to get swept. What are you talking about? LeBron James is on that team, and you may hear me disparage LeBron at times as a basketball player, whatever. This is the second best player of all time. And what it takes to become the second best, please understand this. Let me explain something real quick. When we're talking about all-time great players, it's no longer about offensive ability or stats or talent. All the guys have the talent. All right? Everybody in the NBA is talented, man. That's not anything. Talent is not anything. Some guys are more talented. Some guys are less talented, sure. Some guys are more athletic. Some are less athletic, sure. But when you get into the top 5, top 10 guys, you're talking about a mental focus. You're talking about that MJ instinct, that Kobe killer instinct, the Tim Duncan, the steadiness of Tim Duncan can go into the game. He go into game 7 for the Earth, for the fate of the Earth, and finish with a 30, 15, and 5 blocks. He's just going to do that every single time. It's what he does. It's Tim Duncan. All right. You're talking about a mental stability in guys over that top 10, because you can find guys in the bottom in from 10 to 20 that may have better stats, more points, more rebounds, whatever, but don't have the championships, don't have the mental ability to actually lock in and get you there. And LeBron has that at this point. He didn't have it in the first half of his career. He didn't have it at the beginning. That first year against the Heat is really the biggest one. And I always said, listen, the Magic series was always a big thing for me because I know he had the numbers against the Magic, but they needed more and he couldn't do it. He just couldn't get them there. That Magic team isn't good, man. You're going to look back on that Magic team and be like, how did this fucking team make it to the finals? Dwight Howard and the Pips? What are you talking about? Hedo Turkoglu? He ate a slice of pizza before every game. What are you saying to me? Rashard Lewis? What are you talking about? Rafer Alston? Hot Sauce was on this team? Come on. You're not going to look at that Magic team and see something that's great. It's going to be confusing why LeBron couldn't make it past that Magic team. But anyway, and there are reasons that we could debate, but the point is, at this point in LeBron's career, this dude completely understands it. He gets it, man. He gets the mental thing. Dame hasn't gotten there yet. I said Dame is different. No question. Dame is different this year. But Dame, we saw this last year when they played the Warriors and they got swept. That was scary. So to count the Lakers out, to count LeBron out is so premature at this point. AD is going to feed off of that energy, and hopefully he ascends. I don't want to see players not ascend. You know what I mean? AD had a great game last night. This series is far from over. You know what I mean? I said I thought LA would win in 7, I think, or 6 or 7. But I also said that I wasn't sure. It's so hard to tell with the bubble. The Portland has a lot of they went into the series with a whole lot of momentum. So we're gonna see what is this gonna turn out to be at the end. I don't quite know what's gonna happen here. I would still pick the Lakers to win. If I had to pick, I'd be picking the Lakers to win this series. I'm going to stand by that. I'm going to stand by my original picks. Milwaukee in 5, I think that's going to happen. I said Miami in 7. They might win earlier than that. I said the Sixers lose in 6. Similar to this Miami series, that's extremely disappointing. I think Toronto's going to sweep Brooklyn. I think LA wins in 6, maybe 7. I don't know. I'm going to stand by that. OKC, I'm going to stand by it, even though that ship is going down like the Titanic right now. Houston is showing me some things that I just didn't think they had. Listen, again, like I said, at the end of but before the bubble, before the pandemic, before the end before the season got shortened, Houston, remember, they made the trade for Capella, and the next 2 weeks was a honeymoon. and they were playing great. They were aggressive on defense, gang rebounding, the whole thing. And then it started falling apart. They started losing games. Started with that Celtics game that they lost in overtime, where Jalen, was it in overtime? Jalen shot one free throw, missed the second one, and got the rebound and made the 3-point or whatever. And they were falling apart. So it was like their momentum didn't seem great. They came into the bubble and it was whatever. And now, I mean, they turned the tables. You know what I mean? They turned the tables right now. I'm going to have to eat that L. Denver, again, a little bit, I don't have a red flag up, but there's an orange flag or a yellow flag waving in the distance. It's kind of like, oh, that was a little bit scary what happened in game 2 against Utah. I'm still going to stand by Denver winning in 6. And then Clippers, Dallas, I still have Clippers winning in 7. I'm going to stand by that. We'll see what happens. I think we'll start there. I might be going live tonight after the Sixers game. I'll put that on my Instagram. Maybe if there's enough people who want to see my stupid face live, then maybe I'll do that. Everybody, wash your hands, wear a mask, stay safe. Black Lives Matter, arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor, all of the things. You know what it is already, everybody. Take care. Thank you, everyone, for the listeners, anyone who's watching, listening. Oh, man, ads, yo, shout out to Blueprint Barber Lounge. Out there giving the ill haircut. Shout out to my man Izzy. Please go schedule an appointment on Booksy, Blueprint Barber Lounge, located at 6121 Roland Avenue. Holler at him for the ill haircut. It's so romantic. It's a one-on-one by candlelight. It's nasty. He'll grill you up a steak. He'll make love to you, whatever you want. But at the very least, if you want to deny all of those things, you can leave with a haircut for sure. Shout out to CJ Wendler, my man TJ. The Climate King, single-handedly fighting climate change in your home. Yeah, that's it. Everyone stay safe out there. Take care.
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come in